It started like most things do, quietly, without the drama people imagine when they hear stories like this. There was no sudden touch, no intense eye contact that made my heart skip a beat. Just silence, a pause in time I didn't expect. My name is Alex. I'm in my final year of college, majoring in literature. I live in a small dorm room with Liam, my boyfriend of 2 years. We met during our sophomore year, fell into the kind of love that feels safe, and decided to move in together 6 months later. Liam is kind, steady, the kind of person who rubs your back when you're stressed, who folds your laundry because he knows you forget. He's the kind of person everyone says you're lucky to have. And I know I am. But lately, I felt this emptiness I can't explain. Not boredom, not sadness, just a stillness, as if I've already lived out the love I was supposed to, and everything now is just maintenance. That's when he walked in. Mr. Cole, Professor Damien Cole. Technically, he was new, assigned to teach advanced literary themes. Mid-30s, always dressed in dark tones, sleeves slightly rolled his elbows, eyes sharp behind narrow glasses. He had this habit of quoting poetry, like it was a confession. One afternoon, he read something by Rilke, and when he looked up, I swear, for just a second, he was looking right at me, not at the class. At me. It was the smallest thing, really, just a look, but I felt it, like a thread being pulled from somewhere deep inside me. I didn't think about it after. I told myself I imagined it, until the next class, when he handed back our essays. Mine had a comma in the margin. Your honesty in writing is rare. Don't lose it trying to be palatable. When I saw him after class that day to talk about it, he didn't smile. He just asked, "Is it hard for you to be understood?" I paused. Sometimes. He nodded, eyes softening just slightly. You write like someone who's hiding things. My breath caught. It wasn't just about the essay. That was the first time I noticed how quiet it got around him, how even the sound of papers shifting felt louder than it should. It became routine, go in his office after class, pretending it was just about academics. He would sit behind his desk, fingers steepled, and ask questions no one else ever asked me, about life, about what I was afraid of, about why my characters always chose safety over chaos. And then it happened. One Friday, just before break, I went a hand in a revised draft. The room was dimmer than usual. A storm was coming. He looked at me, really looked, and said, "You're going to outgrow the people who love you." I didn't know what to say, but my silence said more than I meant to. He stood slowly, walked to the window, then turned. "This is wrong," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "You have someone good." I know. He didn't move closer. He didn't have to. His presence was already closer than it should have been. "I'm not asking for forever," he said. "Just one night." The words hung between us like smoke. My chest tightened. I felt my pulse in my throat. I should have said no. I should have walked out. But instead, I stood there, frozen. In that moment, I wasn't a student. He wasn't a teacher. We were just two people, broken in different ways, pulled towards something we knew would ruin everything. I turned and walked out without answering. But the weight of his words followed me down the hallway, into the cold air outside, and all the way home. Liam was on the couch, waiting with takeout, smiling, talking about his day. I nodded, forced laughter, leaned my head on his shoulder like nothing had changed. But it had. Something had shifted. And somewhere deep inside me, I already knew I was going to say yes. The message came late on a Saturday night. A room number. No words. Just that. I stared at it for a long time. My fingers hovered above my phone, ready to type I can't. But nothing came. The screen dimmed. My heart didn't. Liam was asleep in our bed, facing the wall, his breathing slow, steady, the kind of sleep that belongs to someone who trusts you completely. I slipped out quietly. No jacket, just a hoodie and the guilt already wrapping around my skin. The air outside was cold, sharp with the scent of rain. Every step I took felt heavier than the last. The hotel wasn't far, just a few blocks past campus. tucked between two storefronts I never noticed before. I stood at the entrance for what felt like hours, hand frozen on the door. But eventually I walked in. The elevator ride was silent. No music, just the hum of the machinery, and my thoughts screaming louder than they ever had. When the doors opened on the 6th floor, the hallway was dim and empty, carpet muffling every footstep like the building knew what I was about to do. Room 614. I knocked. Once. The door opened slowly. He didn't say a word. Just looked at me like he had in class all those times. Only now there was nothing in the way. No desks. No pretense. The room was small. Clean. A lamp in the corner glowed soft and amber, casting long shadows across the bed. He closed the door behind me. Still no words. I stood there, unsure, the gravity of the moment crashing into me all at once. My pulse thundered in my ears. My mouth was dry. I could have left, but I didn't. He stepped closer. His hand brushed mine. Not grabbing, not pulling, just a question. I answered without speaking. Our lips met like a secret. Hesitant at first. Slow. Every movement cautious, reverent. Hands finding their way through fabric. Heat building between skin and silence. There were no faces in the mirror. Just forms. Silhouettes. Movements blurred by the softness of the light. And the weight of what we were doing. The world outside didn't exist. There was no class, no boyfriend, no rules. Only breath. Touch. The aching release of two people who had been holding themselves back for far too long. We didn't speak the whole time. Not once. Words would have made it real. Words would have made it unbearable. After, we lay in the quiet. Sheets tangled. My heart still pounding, though not from pleasure anymore. He sat at the edge of bed, back to me, shirt in his hands, but not yet worn. His shoulders looked heavier than before. This was a mistake, he said finally. His voice was steady, but small. I didn't respond. I didn't know how to. He looked back at me, eyes tired. You shouldn't have come. You asked. I know, he said, and I hate that you did. Silence again, but this time it was thicker, less intimate. He stood, buttoned his shirt slowly, like each one took effort. You should go. I got dressed without meeting his eyes. The room suddenly felt colder when I stepped into the hallway. The door clicked shut behind me before I could turn around. The walk home was endless. Every shadow looked like judgment. Every step felt like glass. I kept expecting to hear sirens, alarms, someone to scream out that I'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Liam was still asleep when I returned. His hand was stretched across the bed, waiting for mine. I slipped beneath the sheets and turned away from him. He stirred just barely and whispered, "You okay?" I swallowed the lump in my throat. Yeah, just needed some air. He reached for my hand under the covers and held it. His touch was warm, familiar, and suddenly I wanted to cry. He didn't know. Not yet, but I did. I had touched someone else with the same hands that held him. I had given away something that wasn't mine to give. And still, part of me didn't regret it. Not entirely. Because for the first time in a long time, I had felt something sharp and real. Something terrifying and alive. It wasn't love, but it was something, and that somehow made it worse. The days after felt like walking through a fog. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt right. Liam laughed at something on his phone, while I stared at my untouched coffee. He kissed my temple in the morning, and I flinched so subtly I don't think he noticed. But he knew something was off. I could feel it in the way he watched me when I wasn't looking, in the pauses between his words, like he was waiting for mine to fill in the blanks. "You're quiet lately," he said one night while we lay on the couch. The movie on screen was all noise and color, but neither of us were watching. "Just tired," I replied. He nodded like he accepted it, but he didn't believe it. I could see the crack forming behind his eyes. The guilt wasn't a sharp stab. It was a slow, heavy ache. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I just withered from the inside. And still, I didn't go back to Damien. Not physically, but in my mind, I was there constantly, replaying that night in quiet flashes, how his breath felt against my neck, how he looked away when it was over, like he was afraid of what I'd see in his eyes. It was 2 weeks before I told Liam. We were eating dinner, takeout again, something simple. He was talking about a trip we should take after graduation, a road trip, something just the two of us. I interrupted him. I slept with someone. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at me, blinking slowly, like he didn't understand the words. What? I'm sorry, I whispered. It was one night. I didn't mean... Don't say you didn't mean it, he said, his voice suddenly hard. You don't accidentally sleep with someone. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. Who? He asked. I couldn't say it. Not his name. That would make it worse. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. He stood, took 2 steps away, then stopped. Was it someone from school? Yes. He ran his hands through his hair, laughing bitterly. You said you were just tired. That's what you told me. Tired. I was confused. I don't even know why You knew why. He looked at me, and this time there was no softness left. You just didn't care. That hurt more than anything, because it might have been true. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just left, quietly, without slamming the door. And that silence was so much louder. The next morning, I got a message from Mr. Cole. 1 sentence. I heard. I didn't reply. Instead, I went to his office that afternoon. He looked different. Older somehow, though it had only been weeks. We didn't sit. We didn't even close the door. I told him. I said. He nodded. I figured. I lost him. He didn't apologize. Didn't offer comfort. He just looked at me with the same unreadable expression he always wore. This was never going to end any other way, he said. I nodded. I know. There was a long pause, the kind that feels like a final page turning. I think I wanted it to matter, I admitted. That night, I think I wanted it to be something more than a mistake. He looked away. Maybe that's the problem. I left before either of us could say anything else. I didn't see Liam for days. When I did, it was across the campus lawn. He saw me. I could tell. But he kept walking. We had shared a life, a bed, a future. And now he was just another person moving past me. Sometimes I wonder if I expected some cinematic ending. A confrontation in the rain. A breakdown. A second chance. But that's not how real life works. Real life is quieter, colder, and people don't always forgive you just because you're sorry. Now, I wake up alone. I go to class. I study. I sleep. I don't see Mr. Cole anymore. He still teaches, but I dropped the course. I don't write the way I used to. It's harder now. Like I use up all my honesty in one moment, and now I don't know what's left. But some nights, when the world is quiet and no one's watching, I let myself remember the way it felt, the risk, the fire, and I whisper to no one at all. It was only one night, but I'm not sure I'll ever forget it.